Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 2 of Park series. So in the last episode we built this modern gen Vekoma launch coaster with the African theme of course. And yeah, as you saw in the title and the thumbnail, today we're building a Mack Extreme Spinner. So yeah, let's get into the time lapse and start building. So originally I didn't really want to buy this DLC because I don't think it's too overpriced, but I think $10 is a bit too much for like 2 roller coasters and a couple of flat rides. But at the end I decided to actually buy it because I just really felt like building a Mack Extreme Spinner. And I'm happy I did so because this one actually turned out to be really cool actually. And yeah, ever since I saw my first POV of Ride to Happiness, I've always wanted to build one of these things. So as you see here, I built 2 launches here because I wanted both the launches to be kind of in the same place because I think it would look rather cool. So yeah, as for the actual main street of the park, I'm going to try to work on it a bit in between episodes. Now while recording this, I've kind of started with the first building and yeah, some other stuff. So I will do some updates on that in between episodes basically. So yeah, I started off the layout here with a bit of a dive loop, and I actually tried my best while doing this not to make it too intense, because with the spinning element it obviously gets way harder to make it realistic. So yeah, I decided on what theme to do basically in the middle of building this layout, and I decided to go with kind of a airplane theme with airplane hangars because I don't think it would be too hard to build, and also the next coaster I'm gonna build in the next episode is probably gonna fit in with this theme pretty good as well. I already had some ideas, but I'm not gonna spoil them. So I ended up building this helix right here to kind of guide you into the launch. But yeah, I ended up changing the max spin rate to about 100 or 80 just to make it a bit more realistic. And yeah, I think that's kind of the most similar thing you get to like Ride to Happiness or Time Traveler, because if you don't do that, it's going to spin way too much. But yeah, as for this first element right here after the second launch, I don't really know what it's really called, but I kind of did a sideways dive loop. Yeah, let's just call it that. And yeah, I think it turned out really well. Obviously, I had to fiddle a bit with the launch speed to make it flow a bit better. So yeah, I ended up adding an airtime hill, and after that, I went for a flying snake dive. And yeah, I know there's like only one coaster in the world who has this element, probably put a video on screen, but I think this will just fit so well on a spinning coaster. And yeah, then to finish off the layout, ended up adding a bit of a turn into an airtime hill, and then kind of a final overbank element before some switchbacks. So I ended up painting this thing with kind of a bright yellow and then black supports, and yeah, I think this fits the aviation theme pretty well. But yeah, now let's start working on the actual station building. So I ended up going with a pretty simple design for the actual walls and stuff. I ended up going with this kind of metal panels, I guess. But yeah, I'm not really the best at theming, so I had to improvise a lot, but ended up adding some details to the building as well. And yeah, I think the surrounding area at the end turned out really well as well. But yeah, I ended up taking this kind of yellow support thing and kind of outlining the top of the building with that, just to separate the roof a bit more. And after that, I ended up placing this kind of pillars at the side and also recoloring them a bit, just to make them fit in a bit more. And I think that also turned out alright. And I ended up working a bit on the queue as well by adding this kind of wall to separate all the elevated parts, and it turned out alright if you don't look at it too closely, because the corners definitely ended up looking pretty weird, but other than that, from a distance it looks alright. And then just to tidy the queue up a bit, ended up adding all this kind of floor pieces everywhere along the ride, just to make it look a bit more realistic and to fit in a bit more. And I think it also works pretty well with the airplane theme, because airplane. And yeah, I ended up building this kind of communication tower right here, and then the game crashed. Very nice. But yeah, I ended up rebuilding it again straight after that happened. And yeah, I also added this kind of radar satellite dish. Okay, I don't know what to call it, but it has something to do with communication at least. And yeah, I think it ended up breaking up the blocky structure of the main building pretty well, I would say. And after that, I ended up placing this kind of ladder going up, so people can like walk up and do maintenance and stuff, just to add a bit more detail and realism to the build. So yeah, when the main building was complete, I ended up adding this, I don't know what to call it, but this kind of structure above the actual queue, just to make it stand out a bit more and just look a bit better and a bit more complete. And then after finishing that sunshade, if you can even call it that, I started building this kind of maintenance building, and yeah, just to add a bit more realism to the build. But yeah, I won't go into too much detail what I'm doing here, because I'm basically doing the exact same thing as all the other buildings I've built so far. So yeah, after finishing off that building, it was time to work on a bit more details. I ended up adding this fence here, just to kind of tidy up this area a bit more. And yeah, I think this really helped to fit it together. And yeah, I just basically just kept detailing this area. I ended up placing these kind of things on the fence. And yeah, then my game crashed, so I had to redo it all. But then I started working on this kind of food court right here. And I think it turned out really well, actually, and really helped oh god, the game crashed again, fuck! But yeah, I ended up building just a simple little building around this, and I had some pretty good ideas to decorate this. I ended up adding this kind of planks right here, because you know those kind of food places when you have a tray and you kind of slide it over to grab all your stuff? Yeah, that's basically what I did. So I ended up grabbing these kind of cylinders right here to make kind of a soda stand. I messed around with the colors a bit until I was satisfied with it, and yeah, I think it turned out really cool. So yep, there we have the final product. Ended up moving these two as well to make kind of a ketchup and mustard thing, because this is hamburgers after all, and you want some. And also added this trays right here in a stack, and also one sideways, just to make it a bit more realistic, I guess. And also some signs to finish this building off. And I think this one turned out really cool, actually, and that's about it. Subscribe. But yeah, I made kind of a sitting area right here, because you don't want to stand up and eat. That's like really annoying. And I think this kind of yellow parasols on top ended up looking actually really cool. And I think it added a lot to the overall area. Yeah, I think a lot, don't I? But yeah, after that I ended up adding some gravel underneath the actual track, just to make it look like sun hasn't gotten there in a while. And also that it's pretty new, because there's gravel anywhere. And also added these fences right here. And then when I came at the end here, added some bigger fences. I guess you can see by yourself what I'm doing. And yeah, I then ended up placing this kind of switch track right here, and it turned out really cool, actually. And I don't really add too much realism to my builds, but I'm definitely gonna do more of that in the future, because I think this turned out really cool, actually. But yeah, I ended up kind of placing these supports on the side, and also these supports on the other side. Very exciting stuff. And then that was done. So yeah, then after that it was time to do what I always do when I actually edit the actual coaster part, and that is just spam bushes, vegetation, trees and stuff, basically everywhere. And then started to add this kind of cherry trees right here, and those really added the color this thing needed. So now we have grey, green and yellow. Exciting stuff. And then we're basically done. So I didn't end up showing what I did for the interior. I added some lights and also one of these like boxes you place your stuff in before going on a ride. But now let's just stare at it and then head straight into the POV.